place or the conference, but the question the moderator asked is stuck in my mind. What I recall most vividly is the answer that immediately flashed into my thoughts. Here is the question. Suppose you're in a rubber life raft with a friend. You're approaching an island, the raft is leaking, and you are within sight of land. In the raft with you are a set of signal flares, a week's supply of canned food, and a 5-gallon container of water. You must throw one of these items overboard if you're going to make it to the island. Which one do you choose? Now, I have to admit, the first answer that hit me was the friend. Now, don't sit there with that pious, I've never thought of anything like that look. This silly thought that leaped into my mind was a reminder of how easy it is to value things over people. And who among us hasn't struggled with that feeling? Priorities become most important when we must make choices. If we had enough time to do everything, everything could be a priority, but we don't have enough time to do everything. If we had the power to do every good thing that we wanted to do, our choices wouldn't be so important. But we can't do every good thing that we want to do. When Jesus spoke about the priority of relationships, he could not have been clearer. He taught that relationships must be given the highest of values. And thankfully, he also taught us how to give our relationships the highest of values. Experience the truth. Throughout this book, we will come back again and again to experiences from the life of Jesus. I encourage you to allow these stories from the Gospels to draw you in. These relationship events from Jesus' life provide an opportunity to learn from the relationship expert. Consider what it would have been like to be an eyewitness to the things that Jesus taught and did. As you read this experience from the life of Jesus, put yourself there in the crowd with Jesus on that day long ago. One of the most noticeable things about Jesus' interactions with others is how people love to ask him questions. Crowds press in with questions. Jesus' disciples call him aside for questions, and those who disagree with Jesus try to trap him with questions. It's easy to dislike this third group, and it often seems as though Jesus is wasting his time when talking with them. Doesn't he know that their questions are just thinly veiled attempts to trick him into saying something that they can use to accuse him? Yet he patiently listens to their questions, and he answers them one by one. This day, the questions are coming fast and furious. One group asks a question about paying taxes. Another group launches into a series of questions about marriage. Jesus' answers are brilliant and right to the heart, as always. But it seems that maybe it's time to move on and talk to some who are more open to what he has to say. And then a teacher from the edge of the crowd asks a question with a slightly different tone. There seems to be a genuineness to this question not heard from the others. He simply asks, of all the commandments, which is the most important? And Jesus' answer is the most important statement about relationships you'll ever hear. As Jesus speaks, he leaves no doubt as to the value he places on relationships. The most important commandment is this: love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus' simple, clear answer to this question has the power to take our breath away. By choosing these two commands as the most important of all the Old Testament commands, Jesus tells us how deeply he values relationships. He values our relationship with God, and he values our relationship with each other. Lesson 1 in Jesus' teaching about relationships is simply this: nothing is more important than relationships. From beginning to end, nothing is more important than relationships. In the beginning, God created you for relationships. He made you to relate to him and to others. Miss out on relationships, and you are missing out on the core reason for which God put you on this planet. And in the end, nothing is more important than relationships, because nothing will last longer than relationships. Your relationships with God and others will last all the way into eternity. Jesus knows full well the swirling wonder and pain of our relationships tempt us to move them down our priority list. Who needs this, we say, and so we reduce our lives to simple hobbies, tasks, and entertainments. That's not the answer. When I try to make less important that which is truly most important, it only causes more confusion. A life without relationships may well be a simpler life, but it's also an empty life.